Hi everyone, it's Miss Terry, and I'm here to talk about my December picks for students in grades 5th through 6th. We'll talk about some fiction, and then we'll talk about some graphic novels, and then some nonfiction. This first is a series called the Gemini Mysteries, and this is a story about twins, Zach and Evie, and their friend Vishal, and their mom, who is a reporter. And one night in the first book, which is called The North Star, her mom overhears a burglary taking place at the friend of one of their friends' houses named Sophie. And when they arrive, they discover that a very priceless necklace, you can kind of see it in the cover, called the North Star has been stolen. And the twins and their friend Vishal decide that they're going to solve the mystery of what has happened to this necklace. And then the second one has just come out, and it's called The Cat's Paw, and it involves an incident at the zoo, including the disappearance of a rare red panda, an exotic black online market, and some extreme, very extreme animal activists. So if you enjoy mystery series, you will definitely enjoy the Gemini Mysteries. Margie Kelly Breaks the Dress Code is a story about new 6th grader Margie Kelly, who's picked out the perfect outfit for her first day of school, which involves a skirt. But however, in one of her classes, her teacher decides that the skirt is actually 1 inch too short and violates the dress code. She gets sent down to the nurse's office and is pretty much endures the humiliation of her skirt being measured in class in front of all of her peers. And then her dad is out of town, so he's unable to bring her a change of clothing. So the nurse gives her this very ugly, baggy pair of gym shorts that she's forced to wear the rest of the day. And the next day, she is in class, and one of the boys in class has a pair of shorts that really violates the dress code as well. And she keeps waiting for her teacher to call the boy out, and she doesn't. And she realizes that it's really only the girls at school who get dress coded, and she and her friends decide that they're going to do something about it. So it's called Margie Kelly Breaks the Dress Code. Bruhak and the Soul Stealer is a part of the Riordan Presents. So he is the author of The Lightning Thief, and he has a series of books that he's encouraging new authors who have come out. And this is by Lori M. Lee. And this book actually looks at some Hmong stories. And this is about Bruhak, who has the ability to see spirits, and she has her whole life. She has an invisible talking cat that she hangs out with, and it kind of makes her a little bit of an outcast because, she's seen talking to this invisible cat that nobody else can see. So people already think she's strange. And then she accidentally untethers a evil spirit that kidnaps her brother's soul, and he falls deathly ill. And it's up to her to go into the other realm to see if she can get her brother's soul back and fix what she has broken. This is definitely, it's a little bit on the longer side, but it's an action-packed adventure with a wonderful storytelling. So that's Bruhak and the Soul Stealer. Boy Everywhere is about a boy named Sammy who really is just like other kids. He enjoys playing on his PlayStation, doing football, and he lives in Syria right as the civil war is breaking out. And he and his family go from, having a pretty good life to having almost nothing at all, and fleeing for their lives away from the war that is taking place in their country. And they're trying to get through several other countries in order to get to the UK, where they hopefully will find some respite there from the war. This is definitely an interesting look at the Syrian refugee crisis and what actually is happening to those families in Syria. So that's called Boy Everywhere. Shadowgast is a little bit in the horror genre, and this takes place in a town called Erie on the Sea, where Herbert and Violet are on the run from a group of entertainers that have come to town for this kind of like this puppet show that they're going to be presenting. However, they discover that there is a demon attached to this traveling troupe that is trying to steal the souls of everyone in town by catching their shadows. And Herbert and Violet decide that they're going to break the curse and get everybody back to where they belong. It's called Shadowgast. Like I said, it's a little bit on the creepy side. Peacemaker by Joseph Bruhak is actually a historical fiction about a boy named I'm probably gonna say this a little bit wrong, so I apologize for that. Oguaho, who is part of one of the Iroquois nations, and he and his family have decided to leave their village along with some others because they're just really tired of all of the war that's happening between the Iroquois nations. and they're looking for just a more peaceful life, so they decide to leave. Well, unfortunately, Okawahu's best friend Tawis ends up getting kidnapped by one of the Oneida tribes, and it really feels like his whole family and group is going to be pulled back into this war until another tribe comes along and offers a solution of peace. So it's called Peacemaker. Really short read. Alice Fleck's Recipes for Disaster by Rachel Delaney is about a girl named Alice who really loves to be in the kitchen with her dad and enjoys it, but she wouldn't really say that she's like this super chef. However, his new girlfriend has decided that the two of them need to compete in a reality TV show about cooking, which ends up getting reclassified and called Culinary Combat. Next thing she knows, her and her dad are up against some very competitive other chefs trying to do some dangerous deeds in the kitchen. There is a new host to the show named Tom Trufelman, kind of think Gordon Ramsay's. He's very tough on the competitors, and Alice finds herself trying to figure out how did she end up where she is, and can she and her dad survive this show. So it's called Alice Fleck's Recipes for Disaster. So if you like cooking TV shows, you'll definitely enjoy that, as well as a little bit on the mystery side. Josephine Against the Sea is the story about a girl named Josephine who lives with her dad. Her mom has passed away, and she's kind of made it her mission to make sure it stays Josephine and her dad. She kind of fights off all the women that are interested in her dad. Well, one day her dad brings home a woman named Maris, and even though Josephine keeps her usual antics in trying to keep Maris away, she doesn't seem so easily frightened, and she begins to suspect that she's actually something called a sea muma, which is a spirit that requires a tragic sacrifice, and she realizes that her dad might actually be in real danger, and her friend Aki have decided that they're going to try to stop Maris from doing whatever she needs to do to her dad. So it's called Josephine in the Sea, Against the Sea, and this actually is a little bit on the scary side as well. Forever This Summer is a story about Georgie, who's kind of gotten used to her new blended family when her and her mom are sent to help her great Aunt V in her diner called Sweeting's Diner. And then there she meets a girl named Margie. And Margie has a limb difference and is determined to find out what happened to her birth mother. And so Georgie decides that she's going to help her, and this unravels a lot of family mystery and intrigue. So it's called Forever This Summer. And then the last fiction one I'm going to talk about is called Kiki, Kalira Breaks a Kingdom. And this is about a girl named Kiki who really enjoys the stories that her mom tells her of the folk and fantasy tales of India. And she's kind of a nervous kind of girl, so she kind of escapes into her sketch pad. She loves to draw the stories that her mom has told her, until one day she accidentally draws a door that unleashes some of the evil demons of the Indian world into our world, and she really only has her sketchbook to save all of humanity as she tries to wrestle these characters from her mom's stories back into the pages of her sketchbook. So it's called Kiki, Kalira Breaks a Kingdom. All right, let's look at some of the graphic novels. I do have the newest one in the OK Witch series. Let me just pull up the first one in that. So the OK Witch is the story about a girl named Moth who doesn't really know that she's a witch or that her family comes from a long line of witches. And when some 8th grade bullies start to cause some havoc on her Halloween, she suddenly comes into her powers and pretty much all heck breaks loose, and she causes a lot of trouble. But then with the help of her friends and her mom, she's able to kind of get things under control as she starts to discover this part of herself. And then in the second one, she discovers a charm that allows her to create almost like a copy of herself that's a lot more confident and outgoing and is able to make friends better, but it doesn't turn out exactly as she would like. Again, this is written in graphic novel format. Another sequel that's recently come out is the second one in the Anamorph series. Here is the first one, and this is a story about a boy named Jake and his friends who one night see a strange light in the sky, and they realize that there is something evil coming to Earth to destroy humanity. And the 5 teens discover that they've been given the power to transform into the most dangerous animals on Earth in order to defeat this power. So number 1 is out, as well as number 2. I also want to make sure that point out I have here The Lost Hero by Riordan. This is the first in the Heroes of Olympus series, and so if you really enjoy Riordan and you'd like to read some of the graphic novels of his works, we do have quite a few of them at the library, and this is, like I said, the first one in the Heroes of Olympus series. The Underfoot, the Mighty Deep, is a story about a group of hamsters, actually. And what has happened is that the giants that were humans have disappeared, leaving behind their scientifically altered animals that now are self-aware, intelligent, they can talk. And this is in particular is about a group of hamsters called the Hamster Aquatic Mercenaries. And it's a very elite group of fighting hamsters that protect their little coven of hamsters, as well as their allies, the badgers, who are in danger of being drowned. Now, it's only the very elite of these hamsters that are able to participate in the hams. But once they realize that they have to go above the surface where they normally stay underground, they realize that the world is not exactly as it seems. So this is called The Underfoot. A Cat Story is about two cats, Scylla and Betta, who are finding life in the city to be very dangerous. The food is very unreliable, it's very damp down at the docks, the human beings are not very nice to them, and they've heard tales of a wonderful place for cats out in the country, and the two of them embark on an adventure to try to find that place where there's food is always warm and the human beings are always nice. And as they get more and more on their journey, they're not sure that that place actually exists. So it's called A Cat Story. Mighty Jack is the beginning of a series about a boy named Jack, and it's just about to turn summer, which is not really his favorite time of year because that's when his single mom takes on extra shifts at work so that he can watch and expects him to watch his younger autistic sister named Maddie. And Maddie never speaks, she's nonverbal, until one day at the store she does speak, and she convinces Jack to sell their mom's car for a packet of magic seeds. Now, I'm sure you can imagine how that goes over later with Jack's mom, but he realizes that his sister might be onto something when something grows in the backyard. So that's the first in the series. And then the last graphic novel I'm going to talk about is called Artie and the Wolf Moon. And one night she goes against her mom's wishes and goes outside when she's not supposed to, only to discover a wolf outside her door. And then that wolf stands up, puts on a bathrobe, and turns back into her mom. And she discovers that she comes from a long line of werewolves. And she demands that her mom tell her all about it and help her figure out when she will have the opportunity to change. And her mom reluctantly does that. She wasn't really quite ready to share that secret with her daughter, but she quickly needs to tell her more about what it means to be a werewolf, because it becomes very quickly evident to Artie that werewolves aren't actually even the most dangerous thing in the forest. It's actually vampires. All right, so let's look at some of the nonfiction. This one is called This Side of Wild by Gary Paulsen, who's written books like Hatchet and Brian's Return, The Return, Brian's Winter. And Gary Paulsen had a pretty rough childhood, and the one thing that saved him was his adventures outside and all of the wonderful animals that he's met over the years. So this book talks about the different stories of the animals that he's encountered. You can see on the cover there's a brave poodle that rescues him from a bear. So if you enjoy animal stories, you'll enjoy this. If you also enjoy wild survivor stories, you'll enjoy that. Excuse me. The Thrifty Guide to Ancient Rome is a book that looks at the ancient history of ancient Rome, but kind of in a fun way. These books are actually written more like a travel guide. Like if you were going on vacation for the summer and you wanted to go somewhere unique, this talks about what it might be to travel back in time to actually be a part of ancient Rome. And I do have a part marked here, just to kind of give you an idea of what the stories are like. It says, "Are you still alive? If you have not yet been gutted by a barbarian, you have our sincere congratulations. You can always rush home to the future. No one will judge you for it. But if you really want to get your money's worth, march with Caesar as he goes on to conquer the world." So it looks as if you were a tourist during ancient Rome and what might be happening while you are there. And National Geographic Kids, always beautiful pictures. This one is called Courageous Canine, and it's more true stories of amazing animal heroes. So not just about dogs, but also about dolphins and other creatures that have saved human beings, maybe from shark attacks or other wild rescues. This book is a collection of stories about those incidents. From an Idea to Google is a part of a series about where did Google come from? Who invented it? There's others in this series, like From an Idea to Disney, From an Idea to Nike, From an Idea to Lego. We have all of those at the library, but this one in particular is about Google, which started in somebody's garage, and it talks about where the name Google came from, how they revolutionized the internet and how people use it, and it talks about where they are now and what their hopes are for the future. Surviving Natural Disasters, unfortunately, seems like a very timely nonfiction book for right now, with the tornadoes that have just ravaged through Kentucky. But this talks about different stories of survivors, of people who have gone through tsunamis, meteor showers, and tornadoes. So it's called Surviving Natural Disasters. Also gives you some tips and tricks on how to do it if you end up in those situations. This one is called Coding a Minecraft Mod in JavaScript step by step. So if you're really a Minecraft junkie and you want to know more about how to make your own mods, or if you're interested in learning JavaScript, this really does walk you through it step by step. It's a very technical type of book. It's got a lot of coding and instructions in there, and you can follow those steps to put it all together to create your own Minecraft mod. This next one is in the recipe books, the cookbook. It's called Sandwiches. It not only looks at the history of sandwiches, but is full of different recipes of things that you could make for cold sandwiches, hot sandwiches, ice cream sandwiches, you name it. Here's one that you could try. This one's called a pizza melt, and it gives you all the ingredients and the instructions on how to make them. So if you love to cook, if you're interested in sandwiches, if you love anything between two slices of bread, this is a good choice for you. How to Draw is a step-by-step instruction book on how to begin drawing. So this is How to Draw 1. It really talks about techniques, but it also gives you instructions for animals and people and flowers and inanimate objects and things like that. So if you're looking to increase your ability to draw, you might enjoy this series. Another historical nonfiction, this one is called The U.S. Ghost Army. This one is actually written in a graphic novel format. And this talks, that's not a good picture. So you can kind of see it here. So during World War II, there was actually a division of the army that played tricks on the Germans through maybe they created fake cardboard cutouts, anything to try to get the German army to think that the American army was somewhere where it actually was. So they called it the Ghost Army because they would set up these elaborate displays to kind of trick the Germans. And this talks about some of those displays and what actually happened. And then the last nonfiction I'm going to talk about today is called Torpedoed. This is about two kids, Florence and Russell, who are lucky enough that they get to leave the Great Depression and go on a vacation on kind of a luxury boat. Unfortunately, what they don't realize is that Germany is gearing up for World War II, and what happens is that the SSF Athenia in 1939, they're crossing the Atlantic when they become the first boat to go down by a German submarine. And this talks about what happened to the people who survived that sinking and what happened to them, how they were rescued, and what it was like being tossed into the water after being gunned down by a submarine. So hopefully you can find something that you enjoy.